This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Thursday, February 26, 2026. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Lawmakers react to President Trump's State of the Union speech.
President Trump is creating a golden age.
I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
A Florida speedboat involved in a firefight with the Cuban military off of Cuba's coast. Cuba calling it an act of terrorism. I'm Jeff McKay.
The FBI is serving search warrants at the home and office headquarters of the superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District. I'm Jennifer King.
Vice President Vance going after fraud in Minnesota.
To stop the fraud that's being perpetrated.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, stocks are coming off a win, and NVIDIA had another strong quarter. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A massive snowball fight in New York City where police were hit creates a frosty situation between Mayor Mamdani and his police commissioner, Julie Walker, New York.
All ahead on America in the Morning. The day after President Trump's State of the Union address, administration officials and Republican allies hit the cable news networks to stump for the president's policies, while Democrat lawmakers took to the airwaves to slam Trump's speech. Correspondent John Stolnis.
Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar said the president ignored the issues Americans are most concerned about.
He spent only 2.9 minutes talking about affordability out of an hour and 47-minute speech. 3.9 minutes, Allie, talking about health care. These are the number one issues on the minds of the people across the country.
And as the president spoke about the Democrats' refusal to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security due to concerns about ICE and Border Patrol tactics, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and Trump shouted at each other during the speech. She explained why on CNN.
I think it was really unavoidable. The president talked about protecting Americans, and I just had to remind him that his administration was responsible for killing two of my constituents.
White House National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said Trump's first term has created a tremendous economy.
I think that what's going on is that people are dancing around with frogs and dancing around the facts because they don't like the facts. So the facts are that President Trump is creating a golden age.
Republican Senator Roger Marshall on Newsmax says President Trump delivered a clear path forward for the country.
And Trump was saying, here's the way to climb out of this hole. But there's going to be hard work and sacrifice as well.
And Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune said it felt like he was watching two Americas.
A party that is basically pro-defund law enforcement, a party that's for higher taxes and more government and more regulations and less American energy. I mean, I think, and so those are the issues the president addressed. And clearly, I think you saw in the chamber us as Republicans expressing support for that. But
a CNN poll conducted just after the speech found 64% of those who watched had a positive reaction to the president's address. John Stolnis, Washington.
A serious escalation in tension between the United States and Cuba as the Cuban military shot 4 people dead in a speedboat just off Cuba's coast, an incident that the Cuban government claims were armed Cubans living in America attempting to infiltrate the island on a mission of terrorism. America in the Morning's Jeff McKay has details.
There are questions as to why the 24-foot-long Florida-registered Proline motorboat was sailing less than 1 mile from Cuba's coast. In a statement, the communist government said a Cuban patrol vessel had approached the Florida-registered boat to identify those on board when shots were fired from that boat, wounding the captain of the Cuban craft. Members of the Cuban Coast Guard returned fire, killing 4 people and wounding 6 others. The incident happened less than 1 mile from Villa Clara province in Cuba, about 190 miles east of Havana. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the boat was not carrying any members of the U.S. government.
We're going to have our own information on this, and we're going to figure out exactly what happened. And there are a number of things that could have happened here. But suffice it to say, it is highly unusual to see shootouts in open sea like that.
The Miami Herald is reporting that Cuban authorities say they seized assault rifles, handguns, homemade explosive devices, bulletproof vests, and camouflage uniforms from the Florida-registered boat. The 6 people who were injured were taken to a Cuban hospital. The Cuban government claims the 10 people on board the boat were armed Cubans living in the U.S. who were trying to infiltrate the island nation. Rubio says the Trump administration is looking into the Cuban claims.
The Department of Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, others are involved. The majority of the information we still possess is what Cuban authorities are providing both the public and the U.S. government. We have our embassy on the ground in Havana working this as we speak, asking for access to the people that were on those vessels.
The Cuban Interior Minister said 2 of the injured men were wanted fugitives from Cuba in connection with acts of terrorism, and said that preliminary declarations by the men detained from the boat had indicated they were intent on an infiltration with terrorist ends. The statement did not say how the government arrived at that conclusion. The shootout comes the same day the Trump administration said it would start to allow the resale of Venezuelan oil to Cuba. I'm Jeff McKay in Washington.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Save on personalized comfort during Sleep Number's President's Day sale. Their best deals are on now. Limited time, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. When we return on America in the Morning, suspending Medicaid funding in Minnesota after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. And for the last Thursday of the month, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with the nation's forecast.
After stalling out around the northern high plains over the past day or two, a warm front now bends through the upper Midwest through the day today, bringing with it noticeably less cold conditions over the next couple of days. Places like Minneapolis that struggled into just the mid-20s on Wednesday should be able to reach the mid-40s later today and could make a run at the upper 40s on Friday before the next cold front knocks back temperatures once again for the weekend. Similar stories can be expected for the Dakotas and parts of Nebraska, although for northern North Dakota, that cold front may mean falling temperatures through the day tomorrow instead. Speaking of falling temperatures, today brings renewed chill into much of New England and the interior Northeast following a cold front, with dry conditions overall as some sun returns for many. That front keeps pushing through the eastern seaboard, though, and that cold air should be sufficient to lead to at least a mix of rain and snow this morning from portions of Indiana eastward into northern West Virginia. Whether that front continues to dive southward or become better organized and track more to the east will determine whether or not any precipitation can make it as far to the north today as New Jersey or Long Island. Rain will be much more likely over a large portion of the southern states, though, where drought conditions make this a much-needed round of persistent precipitation. Showers and thunderstorms will mean localized downpours from the Arkansas-Mississippi border through southern North Carolina, with occasional steady rain from there northward into at least Maryland and westward to Kentucky. Just about all of the western half of the nation looks quite dry for today, though. In Sioux Falls, South Dakota, sun much of the time and a high of 55. For Richmond, Virginia, today instead brings clouds, even some rain at times, the high 51. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Federal agents in Los Angeles armed with a warrant raided the home and office of the head of the nation's second-largest school district. Correspondent Jennifer King reports a home in Miami was also searched, linked to the case.
The FBI is serving search warrants at the home and office headquarters of the superintendent of the Los Angeles Unified School District, Alberto Carvalho. TV news footage showed agents in FBI shirts and jackets outside Carvalho's modest home in the San Pedro neighborhood. A person familiar with the probe says it's part of an ongoing investigation. At the beginning of the school year, Carvalho told CBS News it was clear that amid federal immigration crackdowns, there was a lot of fear in families that he described as having fragile immigration status. He said the district was working with a number of cities to develop and implement a set of rapid awareness and communication protocols and doing what they could to lessen fear among parents. The nature of the investigation was not immediately clear. I'm Jennifer King.
Vice President J.D. Vance says some Medicaid funding is being suspended to Minnesota. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The announcement by Vice President J.D. Vance came a day after President Trump said during his State of the Union address that Vance would lead a war on fraud. The VP was joined by Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Mehmet Oz at the White House as Vance announced a temporary halt on some Minnesota Medicaid disbursements pending review.
The providers on the ground in Minnesota have actually already been paid. The state has paid those providers the money. What we're doing is we are stopping the federal payments that will go to the state government until the state government takes its obligations seriously to stop the fraud that's being perpetrated against the American taxpayer.
He gave an example of alleged fraud the administration uncovered in Minnesota.
A program that existed to ensure that autistic children had access to some after-school services has made a number of people rich, not by providing services to needy children, but by allowing fraudsters to take money.
Prosecutors have said that fraud schemes targeting Minnesota-run programs could have led to more than $9 billion in losses. I'm Clayton Neville.
The demand for AI computer chips. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger takes a look at Thursday business headlines.
Wall Street opens this morning after a winning Wednesday for the major averages. 2 trading days left in February. Only the NASDAQ is still in the red.
Not great market breadth. It's not a buy everything market, but the second straight 1% gain for the NASDAQ 100. That's something new. The S&P 500 showing a little bit of life.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. NVIDIA shares were higher last night in after-hours trading on better-than-expected quarterly results. Now, investors are debating what CEO Jensen Huang said on the earnings call about competition from other AI chip makers.
A reaffirmation that the AI trade is on. Every time NVIDIA reports, it's always a big event.
That's Intelligent Alpha's Doug Clinton on CNBC. Here's Sandhill's Brenda Vingello on CNBC.
I do think that NVIDIA remains incredibly well positioned. We are going to see ongoing demand for chips, even though there are a lot of companies that are trying to compete with NVIDIA.
Salesforce, different story. It reported quarterly results after the closing bell. Its shares slipped in after-hours trading. Revenue guidance fell short, and it announced a $50 billion stock buyback. Snowflake shares ticked higher after hours last night on its quarterly results. Investors heard from President Trump in the State of the Union address that tariffs are here to stay.
One of the end goals of these tariffs is using the economic leverage of the United States. We have trillions of dollars of investments that could come into the United States, and the ability to drop tariff barriers. Those are really important things. I think what we see from a market perspective is they just don't like the process. This volatility and kind of this almost enacting retribution at times is why the market and clients continue to not like to have these tape bombs that consistently come out on these tariffs.
That's Raymond James, Washington policy head Ed Mills on CNBC. A tape bomb is a sudden, unexpected piece of news that causes an immediate and severe disruption in the financial markets. Panera Bread launching its first ever value meal. As Americans grow weary of high food prices, Panera is in the early stages of a turnaround. Each of 10 items on the mix and match menu at Panera priced at $4.99, so diners have to buy at least 2, putting the total meal cost around $10. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Shake Shack and Papa John's, Dell, FanDuel parent Flutter Entertainment, and Intuit. We find out how many people applied for unemployment benefits last week. Jeep parent Stellantis will report its full-year results. And the IndyCar season opening weekend gets an early start today in St. Petersburg, Florida.
CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Dust up between New York City's mayor and the police department. Snow fooling. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. There's new trouble for the mayor of New York City. Correspondent Julie Walker reports Zohran Mamdani's relationship with the NYPD starts to get icy after officers were pelted in a snowball fight, and suspects are now being sought.
A massive snowball fight in New York City where police were hit creates a frosty situation between Mayor Mamdani and his police commissioner.
From the videos that I've seen, it looks like a snowball fight. I think that there were 2 officers who were facing lacerations on their face.
The NYPD putting out wanted posters for some who threw snowballs at police who were taken to the hospital. Mamdani doubling down on downplaying the issue.
I stay in regular touch with my police commissioner, and I appreciate the work that she's doing. I've said time and time again that having seen these videos, to me, it was a snowball fight that got out of hand, and it should be treated accordingly.
Police Commissioner Tisch and the PBA calling the incident disgraceful and criminal. Monday's giant snowball fight in Washington Square Park, which was promoted on social media, as innocuous as it seems, presents the latest political test for Mamdani just weeks into his term. Julie Walker, New York.
Yet another high-profile resignation following the release of the Epstein files, this time the head of Harvard University. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Harvard has announced that former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers will resign from teaching at Harvard University amid a campus review of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Summers, who had been on leave since November and whose name appeared hundreds of times in newly released Epstein files, will leave at the end of the school year. He will remain on leave until then. Summers served as a Treasury Secretary under former President Bill Clinton and then led Harvard as president for 5 years, starting in 2001. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Thursday, February 26th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Coming up this half hour.
President Trump's pick for Surgeon General has her confirmation hearing. I'm Clayton Neville.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his negotiators will meet with Trump envoys Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Short-term hopes for a nuclear deal with Iran.
But in the long term, the Iranian regime will continue to be a menace.
I'm Richard Johnson.
Google takes down Chinese hacker network. I'm the new old tech guy, Chuck Palm.
The 2026 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees have been announced. I'm Kevin Carr.
Firings at the FBI. Kerry's mea culpa. We'll have sports and a Supreme Court ruling on detention centers. Back after these messages. On this, the last Thursday of the month, we're back on America in the Morning after an historic week for the Mid-Atlantic into the Northeast for snowfall. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton with today's forecast.
A cold front working its way only very slowly through the southeastern U.S. may dampen some outdoor plans for the rest of this week, but the rain that it provides could be welcome news in areas that are experiencing drought conditions. Those areas of drought are rather widespread around the southeast thanks to a rather dry cold season to this point, with cities such as Atlanta receiving only 45% of the historical average precipitation since the first day of winter back in late December. For today, the rain should be steadiest from Tennessee and eastern Kentucky through Virginia and northern North Carolina, but showers and thunderstorms can deliver downpours from northern Mississippi straight through the coastal Carolinas as well, with up to 1.5 inches of needed rain expected through Friday morning. The northern side of precipitation associated with that storm may encounter just enough cold air to produce a zone where snow can at least mix in with the rain early today from central Indiana and southern Ohio to the high ground of West Virginia, but any potential for snow depends partially on the exact track of the storm. A farther south track would take the storm too far away from that cold air for anything other than rain, from western Maryland to central New Jersey, perhaps even Long Island, potentially able to pick up some non-accumulating wet snow if the storm stays just a bit more to the north. Most places to the west of the Mississippi River simply have a dry Thursday to come, with a storm bringing some snow to parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern lower Michigan. A fairly weak disturbance may create a bit of snow over parts of the Colorado Rockies early today. Some rain showers in store toward coastal and parts of north central Washington today as temperatures start to rise around the northern plains. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. An at times contentious confirmation hearing was held Wednesday for President Trump's Surgeon General nominee. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
38-year-old Casey Means is the sister of White House senior advisor Callie Means. She's also a well-known social media influencer who publicly backs the Make America Healthy Again agenda, MAHA. If confirmed, Means would be the first millennial Surgeon General. She was nominated for the role last May, but her confirmation hearing was rescheduled from last October after she went into labor the day before she was slated to appear. Fast forward to this week, as the hearing was held on Capitol Hill for Means and included some tense moments between Senators Mark Wayne Mullen and Bernie Sanders.
I ranted too long. Let's talk about some...
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask your opinion on that. And if I cared about your opinion, I would ask you, but I don't care about your opinion. Well, you're part of the system. You're part of the problem. You've been sitting here longer than I've even been alive.
Means was pressed by Senator Bill Cassidy about her position on vaccines and stressed the concept of informed consent.
Would you, as past Surgeon Generals have, encourage Americans to get vaccinated with the flu vaccine?
At the risk of sounding repetitive, I do think it's very important as a physician and to rebuild trust in public health to make sure that patients are encouraged to have informed consent with their doctor before getting any medication. I believe vaccines save lives. I believe they're an important part of public health. I also do not want to not encourage patients to have a conversation with their doctor. I think it's incredibly important, and informed consent is going to be part of building trust in public health.
Cassidy brought up incentives surrounding vaccines.
Would that kind of outcomes measurement with the aligned incentive to promote immunizations be considered something negative?
Senator Cassidy, I want to just back up and broadly just reassure you that this is not an issue that I intend to complicate or bring an agenda on vaccines.
Means received a medical degree from Stanford, but her license to practice medicine is not currently active. She's chose recently to go down the entrepreneurial path. She co-founded Levels. That's a nutrition, sleep, and exercise tracking app that also gives users insights from blood tests and glucose monitors. I'm Clayton Neville.
Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky says his negotiators will meet with Trump envoys today in the hopes that Russia will eventually join them for peace talks. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the meeting comes 4 years and 2 days after Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
We're working very hard to end the ninth war, the killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine, where 25,000 soldiers are dying each and every month. Think of that, 25,000 soldiers are dying a month.
And I was very disappointed that President Trump did not take this opportunity to recognize that Russia is the aggressor in Ukraine, that our valued NATO allies have stepped forward and are investing in Ukraine's defense. He did make a reference to that. But bluntly, rather than rolling out the red carpet for Putin, as President Trump did when he welcomed him to Alaska, he should be increasing pressure.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says his negotiators will meet with Trump envoys before another round of trilateral talks with Russia. Zelensky says the meeting will address a possible post-war recovery plan for Ukraine while setting the stage for meetings with Moscow's negotiators, perhaps next week. He insists sticking points, like who keeps what land, is not for envoys to decide.
Exactly result on the land, for example, on the territories, because this question, I repeat again and again, this question, I think, to my mind, has to go to the level of leaders.
A White House official says Zelensky spoke today with President Trump, a day after the president spent very little time during his marathon State of the Union talking about the war.
The killing and slaughter between Russia and Ukraine.
Zelensky has said the president set a June deadline for ending the war and will likely pressure both sides to meet it. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
On another front, U.S. and Iranian negotiators have returned to Geneva for their third round of indirect talks over Iran's nuclear program. The meeting comes as President Trump ups the rhetoric towards Iran, and the Islamic Republic has been pushing back. More from correspondent Rich Johnson.
The president made it very clear in Tuesday's State of the Union address.
My preference is to solve this problem through diplomacy. But one thing is certain, I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. Can't let that happen.
He said the U.S. attack on Iran's nuclear facilities was effective, but maybe not for long.
We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again. and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions.
The talks come as the U.S. has established the largest military buildup in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, tells an Indian TV network that an all-out war with the U.S. would be devastating.
Unfortunately, perhaps the whole region would be engaged and would be involved. So it is a terrible scenario. I don't even want to talk about that.
Andrew Boyd, a former chief of operations for the CIA Counterterrorism Mission Center, says Araghchi is posturing ahead of the talks. Boyd is of two minds about a possible deal with Iran.
I do hope diplomatic negotiations work in the near term, but in the long term, the Iranian regime will continue to be a menace and a destabilizing factor in the Middle East.
His comment courtesy of CBS. But Ali Vaez, an Iranian-born policy expert who played a role in President Obama's 2015 nuclear deal with Iran, tells the CBC the upside for the American president is huge.
If he manages to turn the future of Iran's nuclear program into a laboratory-size enrichment or a regional consortium, so Iran no longer has sovereign enrichment, again, that is a real victory.
I'm Richard Johnson.
More fallout in the Epstein case. Bob Kerry's fall from grace. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. At least 10 FBI employees who worked on former special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into President Trump's retention of classified records after he left the White House in 2021 were fired on Wednesday. Reuters is reporting that the firings came after the FBI had subpoenaed records of phone calls made by FBI Director Kash Patel and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles when they were still both private citizens as part of Smith's probe into Trump. All of the FBI agents and analysts who were fired on Wednesday were involved with the classified documents case. Shifting gears, on a day when the Cuban military shot and killed 4 people in a Florida-registered boat less than a mile off the Cuban shoreline, there was word a tanker carrying Russian oil was heading to Havana, and Canada is sending aid to Cuba despite the U.S.-led blockade against the island's communist government. With the latest, here's correspondent Karen Shamas.
Canada is sending $6.7 million in food aid to people in Cuba as the island faces a tightened U.S. embargo and threats of tariffs against countries providing it with oil. Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand has said the funding is aimed at addressing urgent needs and that she did not discuss the decision with Secretary of State Marco Rubio or other U.S. officials. The funding will be delivered through United Nations agencies instead of the Cuban government. The resident coordinator of United Nations in Cuba, Francisco Pichon, told the AP that fuel access was critical for their immediate response to Hurricane Melissa and more extensive operations. Cuba is facing an increasingly dire energy crisis that has heightened in recent weeks after oil shipments from Venezuela were halted when the U.S. attacked the South American country in early January and arrested its then leader. I'm Karen Shamas.
The Supreme Court has ruled against a private immigration detention company accused of making detainees work for pennies. More on the story from correspondent Donna Warder.
The private prison company GEO Group is fighting a lawsuit that alleges that immigration detainees in Aurora, Colorado were forced to work as janitors and in other jobs and were paid only $1 a day to supplement meager meals. GEO argued that the 2014 lawsuit should be tossed out because as a government contractor, it's immune from lawsuits. After a judge disagreed, GEO Group asked the Supreme Court to allow it to quickly appeal the ruling. The justices have refused. In another immigration detainee lawsuit against the company in Washington state, the company was ordered to pay $23 million. Donna Warder, Washington.
The latest person to be impacted by the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, a former governor and senator from Nebraska, Bob Kerrey, has resigned from the board of a clean energy company called Monolith. It was alleged that Kerrey had met and corresponded with Epstein by mail over a decade ago. The New York Times is reporting that files released by the Justice Department show that Kerrey and Epstein met at least twice in early 2013. In February of that year, Mr. Kerrey responded to an email invitation to meet Epstein at his house, while Microsoft founder Bill Gates would be present. Kerrey served as a U.S. Senator from 1989 to 2001, was the governor of Nebraska in the 1980s, and ran for president in 1992. A cyber hacking group with Chinese ties has been taken down thanks to Google. Chuck Palm is the new old tech guy with the story.
The Google Threat Intelligence Group just took down a sophisticated Chinese-linked hacking operation that's been spying on governments and telecom companies for nearly a decade. The group, known as UNC 2814, also called Gallium, has breached at least 53 organizations across 42 countries, with possible access in 22 more. We're talking telecom providers and government entities in Africa, Asia, and America. In one case, they planted a backdoor called Griftide on a system holding sensitive personal data full of names, phone numbers, dates of birth, even voter IDs, and national IDs. The cyber crooks used Google Sheets, the collaboration tool freely available to everybody, to blend their malicious commands into normal everyday network traffic. It wasn't a hack of Google products themselves, but a clever way to hide in plain sight, evading detection while stealing data like call records and SMS messages they could possibly use for tracking individuals. Google, working in collaboration with their partners Mandiant, shut it down hard. They terminated the hackers' cloud projects, disabled their internet infrastructure, and cut off those Google Sheets accounts. China's embassy pushed back, saying they oppose hacking and want dialogue on cybersecurity instead of accusations. For more tech news, follow the new old tech guy on X at Chuck Palm.
Thursday Sports is in with America in the Morning's Robert Workman.
In what could be a preview of the NBA Finals this spring, the Pistons outlasted the Thunder last night, 124-116. OKC had a 12-point lead early, but Detroit roared back. Jalen Duren had 29 points and 15 rebounds. Cade Cunningham, 29 points and 13 assists. Spurs might have something to say about that title chase. They edged the Raptors 110-107 for their 10th consecutive victory. San Antonio coach Mitch Johnson.
We didn't let the ball move a few times tonight, and they made us pay. But I did think we settled in when we really had to, especially started that fourth quarter there and started to play our brand of basketball.
Nuggets blew open a close game with a 15-0 run in the second half and beat the Celtics 103-84. Nikola Jokic finished with 30 points. Rockets crushed the Kings, Warriors whacked the Grizzlies, and the Bucks got by the Cavaliers. NHL back from the Olympic break, the league-leading Avalanche doubled up the Mammoth 4-2. U.S. Olympian Brock Nelson got his 30th goal of the season. The Beast of the East, the Lightning, struck the Maple Leafs 4-2 for their 6th straight win. Nikita Kucherov reached the 30-goal mark for the 9th time in his career. Stars won their 7th in a row, 4-1 over the Kraken. Wyatt Johnson netted his 30th and 31st goals of the year. And the Sabres got a goal from their gold medalist, Tage Thompson, his 31st. They nipped the Devils 2-1. Golden Knights scored 5 times in the third to top the Kings 6-4. The Ducks lit the lamp 4 times in the final stanza to slip past the Oilers 6-5, giving Joel Quenneville his 1,000th coaching win. Only Scott Bowman has more. Capitals clipped the Flyers, and the Jets edged the Canucks in overtime. College hoops, top 10 wins for number 6 Connecticut, 7th ranked Florida, and number 9 Gonzaga. That's Thursday Sports.
Music to their ears as the list of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees is announced. We'll have that and more when America in the Morning returns after these messages. We're back on America in the Morning. Phil Collins, Shakira, and Billy Idol are some of this year's nominees for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Entertainment reporter Kevin Carr has more from the list of nominees.
On Wednesday, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame announced the nominees for its 2026 inductees. Of the 17 artists on the shortlist, 10 of them are first-time nominees, with genres spanning rock, R&B, and pop.
Just give me a reason, just a little
Just clear of the 25-year eligibility window, Pink received her first nomination. INXS got their first nom, and New York City icon Jeff Buckley was nominated for the first time. Also, it's no lie that Colombian superstar Shakira received her first nomination. It's not even Christmas time, but still Mariah Carey received her third nomination in as many years. Also on the list is British rocker Phil Collins. Collins was already inducted as a member of Genesis in 2010. Other Brits who made the shortlist include Iron Maiden, Oasis, and 80s icon Billy Idol. Second nominations went to the Southern blues band The Black Crowes and Joy Division / New Order. On the R&B side, Lauryn Hill got her first nomination, as did New Edition, 80s soul legend Luther Vandross, and Wu-Tang Clan. Sade received a second nomination. Fans can vote on their favorite artist at vote.rockhall.com. Inductees will be announced in April. I'm Kevin Carr.
Details and audio has been released regarding WWE wrestling co-founder Vince McMahon's 100-mile-per-hour car crash in Connecticut. Correspondent Julie Walker reports on an iconic twist in the accident.
Newly released Connecticut State Trooper video shows former WWE CEO Vince McMahon crashing his Bentley on the Merritt Parkway in Westport last July as law enforcement tries to catch up to him.
Why were you driving over 100 miles an hour?
It's my granddaughter's birthday. I got to get this the next exit.
Right. Did you see me trying to catch up to you behind you?
I didn't see that. I saw lights, but it didn't look normal.
Video shows the 80-year-old swerve, clip a BMW convertible, hit a guardrail, and careen back onto the roadway. No one was seriously hurt.
I haven't been driving my car in God knows how long.
Right. It was right in front of you. You went straight at it. At 100 miles an hour.
Police say a piece of the Bentley flew across the parkway, hitting a Ford, driven by a guy wearing a WWE T-shirt on his way to work. McMahon was cited for reckless driving and granted a probation program. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Thursday, February 26th, 2026 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.